Hello, this is part 3, and I hope you all enjoy. By the way, I noticed from my last text-to-speak audios have said a few words wrong and not what is actually written. It's kind of funny. Anyway, on to the story.
Harry Potter? No, it's Harry Strife. By Shineada 14, aka me. Cover made by him of Shyness. Chapter 8. Cloud had been having headaches like the times when Sephiroth was messing with his head, so he had to leave for a few days. He didn't want Sephiroth just appearing in Hogwarts to fight him, but now that a few days had passed and lots of meditation, the headaches went away. Once they did go away, he decided to head back to Hogwarts. But first he had to get out of the Forbidden Forest. He hadn't wanted to be far from Hogwarts since he wanted to be close by if anything happened to his son, which Aerith and Zack kept him up to date with everything that happened within Hogwarts. Though one of the teachers, Quirinus Quirrell, had him highly suspicious that he had to ask Aerith for Vincent's help since Cloud couldn't get a hold of him in any way, which she did since Harry could have been in danger, and they wouldn't have realized. Cloud could have asked Severus or Remus for help, but they wouldn't be able to stay hidden for long. Vincent and Cloud did have a long talk about everything, even why Vincent had been gone for so many years without any contact from him. According to him, he was investigating something that was between him and Aerith at the time, which was when he was unable to tell Cloud anything about it at the time, but now he could. So, according to Vincent, Aerith had sensed that someone broke out of the Lifestream and needed Vincent to investigate who had broken out. But he was unsuccessful in finding out who it was, but it wasn't Sephiroth, thankfully. But they did know now it was two people who had broken out, not just one person, and Zack stated he may know who they were, but wasn't sure if his hunch was correct or not. The stressful part was Zack wasn't telling him who he thought they were, which was driving Aerith crazy. Zack has been keeping things and won't tell him or the others, which wasn't normal for Zack since Zack was usually not the one to keep things quiet for too long. So this wasn't normal for him. As Cloud was making his way back to the main path back to the castle, a few centaurs surrounded him, which had him grasping his sword handle. "At ease, champion, we aren't here to fight you." The leader of the centaurs spoke to him. He didn't trust him, but he did let go of his weapon. "What do you want?" Cloud asked with his arms crossed, on edge from them still surrounding him. "We had sensed your presence in our forest, and we wanted to meet the one surrounded in mystery and legend, champion of the planet." The leader of the centaurs bowed his head to him in a show of respect. "My name's Megorian, and I'm pleased to make your acquaintance, champion. And you have mine and my herd's full support. We trust that you'll change the fate of destiny that is already told within the stars." "Understood," Cloud nodded his head. If in the future we need to talk again, I'll come to you." After he said that, Megorian nodded his head in agreement before he and his herd left him alone. Cloud relaxed again once they were gone and noticed Hagrid and Fong were in the forest as well. Curiously, Cloud followed the half-giant to see what he was up to. He followed far behind them for a while when he noticed that Hagrid was headed towards a dead unicorn, which wasn't normal. Quickly, he caught up to Hagrid, startling him when he approached him. "Blimey, Cloud. Nearly gave me a heart attack," Hagrid told him as soon as he was in earshot. "Sorry," Cloud apologized to him before walking over to crouch down to the dead unicorn, inspecting the body, taking note of the human bite mark in its neck. He noticed the unicorn's eyes were still open and closed them shut, and giving the unicorn a send-off so it could join the Lifestream. It turned into white and green lights and disappeared into the planet. Hagrid was caught off guard by the creature, suddenly disappearing in front of his eyes in white and green lights. "What was that?" Hagrid asked as Cloud stood back up. It was just returning back to the Lifestream," he said, all too casually ignoring the confused expression on his face. "Let's get going back to the castle. Do not, and I really mean do not, tell Dumbledore about the Lifestream, got it?" "Yes, Mr. Strife." Hagrid was awestruck by Cloud's commending tone, making him view him as a true leader. They headed back to the castle together, with Fong close to Cloud's side, just like Hagrid was doing. Harry had gotten lost because the moving stairs refused to move again, forcing him to go off on the 3rd floor. Once he had gotten off the stairs moved to allow him back on. So, he had no choice but to look for a way to get back to the 1st floor, which was very difficult. He was thankful that he had left June with his Uncle Zack, since he didn't want anything to happen to his adorable baby blue Chocobo. Harry came across a door. It wasn't locked, so he went inside of the room after opening the door in curiosity, and was greeted by a large 3-headed dog. Upon seeing the dog, he froze with fear since he had never seen such a creature before, And when the dog went to attack him, someone grabbed him by the waist quickly and was back outside the room, still frozen from shock. He felt someone rubbing his back in a smoothing way to relax his muscles, and he finally let out his breath he hadn't noticed he had been holding in that entire time. Once he was able to get his bearings, the person that had been helping him out, he had a weird haircut and he had Mako-infused eyes like his dad and uncle, and his hair was jet black like his uncle. Thank you, Mr. Harry told him with a soft smile. The men nodded his head and helped him back to the first floor. Tell someone about what just happened with who you trust, the man told him before growing a white single wing on his back. Yes, sir. He nodded, watching the man fly away. His brain was so messed up that he ended up just sitting down on the floor next to the wall to think about what just happened. Harry hadn't realized how long he had been there when Professor McGonagall found him there. Mr. Strife, she said in surprise from seeing him in a mental breakdown. It's time for dinner. Why are you here all by yourself? She came to sit down beside him carefully. Something scary just happened and I want my dad. Harry was trying to be brave and hold his tears back, but he was failing miserably. I know, sweetie. But in the meantime, why don't we take you to Madame Pomfrey really quick? She suggested it to him, and he nodded his head. She carefully got up and helped him up before taking him to the hospital wing. Once in the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey confirmed Harry was in intense shock and we needed a calming draft potion to help him out. But she was currently out and immediately sent a letter saying she needed a calming draft potion made, quickly adding Harry's name to it before sending it off. She told McGonagall to leave since Dumbledore wanted to see her in his office and she'd take care of Harry from here on out. McGonagall didn't want to leave Harry alone, but Madame Pomfrey shooed her away so she could work on Harry's shock. Cloud just got back into the castle after parting ways with Hagrid. He was about to go to the Great Hall to check on Harry, but Severus came rushing towards him with a letter in hand. Before he could ask what was going on, Severus told him Harry was in the hospital wing at that moment because he was in shock. Severus told him he had to make the calming draft potion, so he couldn't see Harry with him right away, and when he saw Cloud, he immediately knew he had to tell him about it. Cloud immediately afterwards headed for the hospital wing, and he ended up bumping into Professor McGonagall, who was at a statue which he knew led to the headmaster's office. "Ah, Mr. Strife, you're back," she greeted him with a nod. "I believe you already heard about young Mr. Strife is currently in the hospital wing with shock?" "Yes, I was on my way just now," he told her respectfully. "Well, I hope you do your best with helping him and won't blame you for pulling him out this time around, especially after what the pictures told me what happened on my way here to the headmaster's office." She honestly didn't look at all too happy as she said this. "What do you mean?" He questioned her very seriously, which she sighed out before glaring towards Dumbledore's office before she spoke. "According to the pictures, Dumbledore magically transfixed one of our moving staircases to only move towards the third floor with Harry only on it and not let him off unless he went to the third floor," she began to explain. "If my hitch is correct, Harry was forced to meet Hagrid's three-headed dog, Fluffy. He calls the beast, and according to the paintings from the third floor, saw the entire thing go down. Harry was saved by an unfamiliar man with a single white wing and brought him back to the first floor, where I found him hours later curled up against the wall in shock. He did ask for you, and he looked to be in tears from the experience. I took him straight to Madame Pomfrey as soon as I was able to get him to stand up on his own, though his legs were wobbly the whole way here." After hearing all that, Cloud was beyond pissed towards Dumbledore, and this was the very last straw he had with that man. He was going to force him out of his position as headmaster and go to the Ministry of Magic for what that man has done to his son. "Will you be willing to testify to a trial to get him out of his seat as headmaster?" he questioned her. "I can't promise I can, but I will try. He doesn't deserve that spot anymore after doing this to Harry." If Lily knew her son was being treated in this way, she would be rolling in her grave. She responded to him angry as equally as him. "I'm going to give Albus a piece of my mind during my meeting with him for what he has done." Cloud nodded his head and left for the hospital wing, finding Harry on one of the beds with Madame Pomfrey next to him. As soon as she saw Cloud, she softly spoke to Harry. "Harry, your father's here now. It's going to be okay, sweetie." As soon as she said that, Harry turned with tears in his eyes and immediately yelled, "Dad!" He ran towards Cloud with tears down his face, and Cloud immediately picked him up before sitting down on one of the beds, rocking him while humming a lullaby Tifa used to sing for the kids a long time ago. I want to go home," Harry cried, obviously hurting from the shock he suffered from almost dying. "It's okay," Cloud whispered softly. "We'll go home for a while, I promise." He kept rocking him, and as soon as Severus came in with the calming draft potion, he helped Harry take it and the boy went to sleep in his arms. "We need to talk to Severus. Let's go back to my room." "Yes, let's go." Severus nodded in agreement, knowing Cloud was serious about this, and gave the rest of the potion to Madame Pomfrey to use on anyone else later who needed it before he made it back to Cloud's and Harry's room. Once in the room, Cloud took Harry to his bed. Ignoring Zach's confusion and noticed the baby blue Chocobo, he had a feeling Harry's Chocobo egg hatched while he was gone. He carefully put Harry to bed, tucking him in, and Red had come in the room panting, meaning he had run to get here. Red immediately told Cloud what happened earlier while Harry was in class. Dumbledore had seen him guarding the door, and since no one was around, he had teleported Red somewhere that was far from Hogwarts, and if he didn't have good tracking skills, he wouldn't have found his way back. That struck a nerve with Cloud that the bastard dared to put Red in harm's way for a second time. He told Red to guard Harry while he slept and that they'll be returning to their home, the one protected by the planet, for a few weeks, and they'll be packing throughout the day tomorrow. Red nodded his head and hopped on the bed, laying next to Harry comfortably before Cloud turned on the music box before leaving the pair to rest. Cloud left the room and went straight to start packing the stuff that was brought through the livestream, startling with Zach. "Cloud, why are you packing stuff up?" Zach questioned as soon as Aerith appeared, who was also confused by Cloud's sudden behavior. "Harry was sent to the hospital wing for shock. I only know because Madame Pomfrey was out of the calming draft potion and had to quickly make her some," Severus told them, as well as guessing that was one of the reasons. "It's a part of it, yes, but not everything. From what McGonagall told me, from what the paintings told her, that Albus purposely hexed the stairs for only Harry to be on and keep him on the 3rd floor, and with what Red just told him, how he was teleported far away from the castle by Albus Dumbledore. Harry had come close to death from encountering Hagrid's 3-headed dog Fluffy when he froze in fear. If it hadn't been for a man with a white wing, Harry would have been dead," Cloud told them, and Zach looked surprised. "And Giles saved Harry?" he questioned out loud, causing everyone in the room to look at him. So, my hitch was right." "Zach, explain," Aerith told him in her motherly scolding tone. "Well, before I made Cloud and you, Aerith, I was still in training for first class as Isolde. My mentor was Angel, and I got close to Sephiroth because of him, since they were friends along with Genesis. I got close to them too. It was very hard having to fight them for how close I was with them, and my hitch was that it was Angel and Genesis. I didn't want to say anything just in case I was wrong," Zach admitted, putting the baby Chocobo on a heated blanket. "Nice to know at least Angel is on our side," Cloud sighed out. "Anyway, for the actions Albus committed against Harry and Red today, I'm going to get him out of his seat as headmaster before I allow Harry back into here. And Severus, if he so much as drag you under the bus with him, you are more than welcome to join us." "Thanks, Cloud. I may take you up on that, but for now I'll help you pack up before Harry wakes up." Severus nodded, and the 3 of them packed, while Aerith went to tell Vincent what was going on at the moment. Chapter 9. Albus Percival Wulfric Brain Dumbledore. Came a loud yell scream from the stairs leading to his office, and he knew from the tone of that voice alone that McGonagall wasn't too happy with him. The paintings in his office had already told him of her worth was incoming from what he had done. He was feeling awful for what he had, and originally he thought it was a good idea to nudge Harry to the path that would help him defeat Lord Voldemort, but instead it almost got the boy killed. What were even thinking? Doing that to Harry? McGonagall shouted as soon as she entered his office, glaring at him with so much disappointment. "I thought he could handle it," he honestly told her. "Maybe he needs to change his thinking at this rate. He'd be as bad as the person his old flame was." "Well, he couldn't. He is a child, Albus. Now Mr. Strife isn't happy that his son was in danger, and plans to go to the ministry for his child was put in harm's way on purpose now. And if it comes down to it, I will testify in the trail if it comes down to it," she told him in a serious scolding tone. "Not to mention he's taking Harry out of Hogwarts for a few weeks because of this incident alone. If that's what he chooses to do, then he has full rights to do so. I did put Harry in a dangerous tight spot. But if I am no longer Hogwarts headmaster after the trail, then I think you should be the one after me, Mrs. McGonagall. It should be fair you take up after me, since the teachers and parents trust you more than me. I may actually go on a vacation and retire early." Albus agreed with her, and he wasn't going to drag Severus down with him in the huge mess he made. It was only he who made the decision to test her without getting advice about it first. If the ministry does kick you out of your position, I will take over as headmistress, but you Albus have a lot of reflecting to do. With that she left, not wanting to talk anymore, leaving him alone with Fox, who was ignoring him by cleaning his feathers. Well, it looks like I screwed up. Some slight whispering was heard in his ear, telling him he was in the right to do that to Harry, and Albus nodded in agreement, believing the voice to be in his head. His renewed determination came back, and he was cooking up another plan in his head that would make the young Potter boy come back into his arms and to put Cloud Strife in a bad light. It would just take time and patience to execute the new plan. Harry woke up to the smell of food and had to blink a few times because of the sunlight. The house elves were waiting patiently for him to be fully awake to feed him breakfast. Red stayed with him and ate only a bit of food but was on guard. His father entered the room for a quick second to tell him they were leaving the castle for a while and won't be back until a few days before winter break. And to go tell his friends goodbye since he won't be able to see them for a while. Harry agreed as long as his uncle came along, because the last night's events were still fresh in his mind, and his dad agreed, which earned a loud yes from the other room. After Harry finished his food, he cleaned himself up before putting on a clean, fresh pair of clothes. Harry thanked the house elves for the meal before he, along with his uncle and Red, left the room to go find his 3 friends he made, Draco, Neville, and Hermione, to say his goodbyes to them. While his uncle and Red walked with him on his way to the Great Hall to tell his friends goodbye for a while, and immediately was surprised that there were many upset parents, and McGonagall was trying to calm them all down. Draco was with a woman with half black and half blonde hair, who looked more pissed than upset, and that Ron kid who he didn't really like, with his other older siblings who he did like, and 2 people that he never met and assumed were the red-headed siblings' parents. As soon as Draco saw him, he went straight towards him, hugging him out of the blue. "I'm so glad you're okay, Harry." He let Harry go after a while, making sure he was okay mentally and psychically. "Yeah, I'm okay, but I'll be leaving and won't be back until a week before Christmas, and I wanted to say goodbye for a while to all my friends," Harry explained with a sad smile before asking him a question. "So why are mostly everyone's parents here?" "I'll answer that for you, Mr. Strife." McGonagall managed to reach them and smiled when she saw that Harry was all right. "After last night's events, the school will temporarily be closed until next year in February due to some needed changes within the school and with the staff. Since there will be a clear investigation after what happened last night and previous events, as well as come into questioning, so those will be investigated as well. But for the time missed for the students, there will be no exams at the end of the year. And to those families who won't be able to have their children for 3 months will be sent food and water for the time Hogwarts will be closed. Though I'm happy to see you awake after being out for a week." "I've been out for a week?" he squeaked in surprise. No one had told him that he had been asleep for that long. Harry literally thought he had only been sleeping for only a day, not a week. "Yes, Harry, you were. Everyone was worried. You even had Mr. Filch was worried, and that's saying something," Draco told him as Ms. McGonagall went to another set of parents that had just arrived, and Harry was surprised by the fact Mr. Filch was worried about him. That's when he realized no one was freaking out about his uncle being there at all. "Uncle?" Harry turned to his uncle away from Draco. "Why isn't anyone surprised to see you?" His uncle sheepishly grinned, awkwardly looking away from him. "Well, you don't need to know now, you just woke up. No need to hurt your head more right now," his uncle told him sheepishly. Harry was very suspicious of his uncle and went to find his other 2 friends, Hermione and Neville, with Draco and his 2 guardians right with him. Chapter 10. It had been 3 days since Cloud's son had been asleep and he hadn't woken up. He had been packing their stuff little by little and only paused because he heard a very familiar voice speak right behind him, causing his heart to ache with sorrow and hope. He looked over his shoulder and his voice trembled with so much raw emotion. "Mom!" A woman with similar hair to his own and blue eyes that weren't Mako infused like his own. She gave him a soft smile and ruffled his hair like she used to, making him feel like a kid again, which made him happy with seeing her again after the incident. "My Thundercloud, you've grown so much. You must get all the ladies dropping at your feet," she hummed, sitting down on his bed, patting her lap in a demanding way which he knew meant she wanted him to lay his head on her lap, and he knew better than anyone since she was his mom to listen to her. She was Mama Strife, and she even fought against Tifa's father often for how he treated Cloud when he was a child. She was a mama bear that you didn't want to cross. As soon as Cloud let his head lay down on her lap, she ran her fingers through his blonde hair, making him feel like he was 10 again. He felt loved again by his own mother. He had so many questions as to why she was here and to how she felt about his life now. Cloud started dozing off for a bit since it was smoothing and relaxing to have his mother run her hands through his hair. "My little Storm Cloud, you've grown so much," she said with a loving tone. Aerith was right. "You've grown into a strong man." He couldn't hold it anymore and had to ask, "Why did you never come to see me?" He felt her pause for a few seconds before continuing running her fingers in his hair. "Because you didn't need me?" she told him soothingly. "Aerith kept me up to date on your life. I was happy you were okay and that you didn't need my help anymore. I only came now because Aerith told me what happened with my grandson and I knew you needed me, my little thunder dragon. Also, I've been wanting to meet my grandson. I heard that he has been a bit of a firecracker. He is very much a little fire dragon whenever he wants to be." Cloud couldn't help but respond, especially when he talks about his son. "I can already see him deciding to stay with me after he comes of age, though I wish he'd go live his life to the fullest with whomever he chooses as a partner. If he does, then that's his choice," his mom hummed. "All the same, you'd be very sad without him in your life. But right now, don't focus too much on the future. He's still young and possibly will change his mind when he's older, but right now just focus on the now and give him as much love and attention before he gets to the age he wants to leave the nest." Cloud knew she was right. She raised him after all. After a few minutes of comfortable silence between them, Cloud had to ask the question. He's been dying for the answer too. "Mom, who's my father?" "Stormcloud?" She sighed but didn't pause in combing through his hair with her fingers. "Are you ready for that answer?" "Not really." Cloud sighed, completely relaxed as his mother combed her fingers through his hair. "But I'd rather know than not know who he is." "Cloud, your father is the man you think he is. He changed after he found out I was pregnant. He died ages ago, but he is not a man that deserves to be called a father, and to be honest, once he left me I considered him dead." She told him without saying his name. "So don't think you're any less of a father because you never had one. You're doing a great job with Harry, and that's all that matters, my Thundercloud. You've made me so proud and I love you very much." Cloud felt tears run down his face as he felt a surge of love for his mother exploded inside his chest. His mother let him cry, making promises to come visit him more and wanting to see and give love to her beloved grandson Harry. He slowly fell asleep on her lap and dreamed of the time he was a kid when he was sick and his mother took care of him when he was small. The next thing he knew, he was in Harry's bed cuddled against him. He assumed Zack must have put him in the bed while he was asleep since he had done it before. He felt lighter than he had in years. Like a weight has been lifted off his shoulders, and he smiled, remembering his chat with his mom, and looked forward to seeing her again. Back to the present, Harry spent his last few moments in Hogwarts for now with Draco, Hermione, and Neville. Ron did try to join them, but Harry wasn't having any of it since Ron only wanted to cling to his fame that he had, and not who he is as a person, though Ron's twin brothers Fred and George were better than Ron because they didn't want fame and wanted to open a joke shop once they finished their schooling, which Harry admired a lot since they were following their dreams and treated Harry as their actual brother, then their own little brother, which Harry did feel a bit guilty about. Though Fred and George said they hated how Ron was babied by their mother, and they even mentioned that Dumbledore had given permission to their mother to put their sister Ginny in an arranged marriage which they had overheard. They tried to tell their father, but their father was busy with work. So Harry promised them he'd tell his father about it, since his father wouldn't like that he was being put in an arranged marriage without his input. They spent the time in potions with Professor Snape and Red watching over the group. Harry's uncle Zack left a while ago after a small chat with Professor Snape, which seemed suspicious, but Harry knew that it was none of his business, so he stayed out of it. Currently he was listening to Hermione talk about everything in the Ravenclaw dormitory, and how her knowledge grew thanks to her talk with Harry and Neville on the train, grateful for not asking the Hat to put her in Gryffindor since it wouldn't have been the best idea for her. And even Neville was happy that he was in his house, Hufflepuff. It helped him keep calm, especially during times he had forgotten the dormitory password but managed just fine. Draco did admit that the Hat wanted to put him in Gryffindor, but he knew his parents, mostly his father, wouldn't be too happy about it, and he would have been disowned by everyone besides his mother and his family because everyone in his family is from Slytherin, so he had asked the Hat to put him there, not wanting to be a disappointment to his father. Harry did ask how that could be when the Hat barely touched Draco's head, and Draco answered honestly that the Hat immediately asked him after telling him he belonged to Gryffindor to go to Slytherin, and he said yes to the voice, which was when the Hat shouted Slytherin. Harry thought about it before he turned to Professor Snape's desk. Professor, is it possible for someone to change houses? This got everyone's attention by the question. It is though it is different from the house ceremony during first year, but it is just as easy by taking a test for each house, and which one that gets the most points of the test shows you belong to that house, and you'll be moved to that house, though the transition in the house may be difficult due to students not trusting their new roommate easily. Snape answered within a heartbeat. Though why the sudden question? Just curious. Harry gave a short reply as his father came to retrieve him, and Harry told all his friends goodbye for now, promising to send letters to them while Red joined them. Though this wasn't going to be the end, Harry hoped he could see them again within the few months he'd be gone. Zack appeared behind a man with long black hair and wore a lot of red. The man was looking at a door with multiple snakes as some kind of lock. Shouldn't you be following after that crazy old wizard man, Vincent? The man's red eyes turned to stare at Zack, and Zack remembered his first meeting with the other man when he was a newly turned First Solda along with Cloud and Sephiroth to investigate a broken pipe in Nibelheim before Genesis making Sephiroth go insane. I can't follow someone who can teleport with a magic stick, he replied coolly, causing Zack to shiver a bit. True. Zack gave Vincent a sheepish grin, rubbing the back of his head. But why are you in the sewers of Hogwarts? I heard a loud heartbeat, and it led me here. It's behind this locked door, Vincent told him. Whatever it is, it's asleep for an unknown amount of time. I think Cloud should be told about it right away just in case it wakes up, because I do believe it could be dangerous to everyone if it wakes. Seriously? Zack let out a frustrated groan before sighing. All right, then keep an eye on it then. I will report it to Cloud as soon as I can. No. Zack was bewildered by Vincent's nonchalant tone. What do you mean by no? Because I don't want to be stuck in another dungeon for an unknown amount of time again, and I would rather tell Cloud myself. Zack let out a sigh, obviously annoyed how Vincent was right and stubborn at the same time. Fine. Do whatever you want. He waved his hands at him in a childish manner. I have got my own personal mission, so do as you please. With that, Zack left quickly. Vincent grinned as he watched Zack leave with a pout.
Part 4 won't be out until I get a few decent chapters done. In the meantime, I'll be posting my other books. See ya all soon.